said before the commencement of this budget session that this is the first budget of the second quarter of 21st century, and truly it has got many of those features in it. That is why you're looking at some of the long-term investments that we are making today, which will have bearing in the long term. Whether you're talking of the biopharma Shakti, the very thing that where we are highlighting how biosimilars will be an answer to many of those life-threatening diseases. And that takes a long time to evolve. You invest today, biosimilar arrives after several years. But India should have a lead in that, and therefore even in this budget we have provided for research in biopharma and making sure that we will be leaders in biologics and biosimilars. The same is the spirit which guided us when we said we need to have India's Semiconductor Mission 2.0, the second edition of it. And in that, I'd like to highlight that I've spent a brief mention of investing in cutting-edge areas like carbon capture. Because carbon capture is a very important means through which our 2070 net zero goal can be achieved. We have mentioned about carbon capture also. The strategy, the technology, and the ways to do it are all evolving, but even as it is evolving, we have invested in it so that we can be a leader in that. By doing these, which are somewhat leading us towards a medium and a long term, we are also continuing our push in building infrastructure. Now, it's not just roads, it's not just national highways, it's also looking at waterways so that the cost of logistics in this country can come down, and states which are very much in the hinterland, not connected to any seaport, will have the advantage of moving goods faster at a lesser cost. So we very clearly created freight corridors as part of the very exclusive land on the surface transport, but equally spending resources and planning for infrastructure through waterways, national waterways. Even as we are doing this, Madam Deputy Speaker, emphasis on labor-intensive sectors and giving them emphasis so that not just they can have more resources to improve, but even looking at legacy industries which are waiting for rejuvenation have been funded. I'll take the example of building champions out of MSMEs, particularly the medium-sized units, which do not want to grow out of the MSME category, even though they have the capacity, even though they have every strength. But even in the last budget, we expanded the definition of MSME so that even if they go beyond a certain level in their turnover, they'll still be defined as MSME. They don't lose out on their benefits. But this budget, we've taken that a bit further and very clearly announced ways in which such medium-sized industries which have potential to grow and export and also become champions in their sectors can be given further help, and I've announced several steps towards equity help, professional help, and also making sure that they will have liquidity access. And in the process of 3 ways in which we want to reach them, we are giving them the support which, even if they grow out of the turnover limit which defines them as an MSME, they will be leaders in their sectors so that they can participate in India's growth. Is this only for industries? And is it not going to concentrate, is this budget not going to concentrate on building manpower so that our youth can aspire in a particular sphere of activity to go with skills in his hand or her hand and achieve jobs or become entrepreneurs themselves? In this, I would like to highlight 2 major announcements that we've made, in which I have not named any states. In fact, I have openly said, for creating this big facility, states can aspire, any state can aspire, going through the PM Gati Shakti filters, If you think you have a proposition in your hand, any state can ask for one of the 5 that I've announced in terms of the allied and health service, where we want to set up medical hubs. States can aspire to be a part of it, wherein all the aspects of medical education and hospitals for treatment of patients can all be focused in one area, where nurses or any other 10 different allied health services will have their institutions through which people can learn, get themselves skilled, find jobs there itself, and that will become a medical tourism hub. So any state can qualify, and I'm sure states which have traditional strength can also be coming in for it. And this includes Ayush as well. So this is a major forward-looking proposition, wherein immediately, because of the medical tourism advantage that India has, this will become a center of multi-purpose, multi-speciality allied health service center through which we can promote medical health, medical tourism. So that was one of the major announcements. Similarly, we have said, instead of waiting to qualify and finishing your education and coming out and seeking where should they go for acquiring skills, the skilling element can be brought into education itself, and at the end of the day, when they come out, students can say, I can become entrepreneur, and this kind of a mega center can be kept next to any industrial cluster that any state has. So these mega entrepreneurship building centers as education hubs can also be coming up from any state. We are willing to work with the states so that this mammoth higher education center can be propped up, and therefore students can go there, come out as entrepreneurs, get to doing businesses. So if we have done these two in the major education-related activity, health-related activity, we've also openly said that mega textile parks, we are willing to work with states, particularly looking at industrial textiles, looking at textiles which are going to be new age, which are now becoming a part of manufacturing in industries, whether they manufacture a car, where the safety cushion which comes in is all completely made out of industrial textiles. So these kind of new age textile requirements can also be produced. So these are major announcements, and I welcome any state which wants to come into this area. The center is willing to work with them and promote it. If this is all being done at the level of youth and students and larger centers where jobs and education can go together, health and education can go together, health and providing services to patients who come from different parts of the world come together. We are also placing emphasis in animal husbandry, fisheries, to make sure that in every district you get the facilities for a veterinary surgeon, veterinary hospital, testing labs, so that animal husbandry can be given that priority immediately in the rural areas. So farmers or those who are not farmers who want to get into animal husbandry can also benefit. That is why these announcements for fishing sector, it goes along with money being put in for restoring 500 Amrit Sarovars, the waterways, and the particular waterway which has been, national waterway which has been announced, also has institutions of excellence along its course, along the course of the river, so that shipbuilding, boat building, particularly I mentioned this, the route in which the national waterway is being announced, which will end up covering all the mineral-rich parts of the country and linking up with Paradip or with Dhamra port, is passing through states where the Nishad Log can become boat makers, and they're already experts in it. They can also teach people. They can become part of the Institute of Excellence, so that inland shipbuilding, shipbuilding for the transporting of huge logistical facilities, will all have the support of the local experts who for generations have done this work. They can also benefit in this growth. Equally, ma'am, as I said, not just helping the MSMEs which are new, but also the old and legacy industries, 200 legacy clusters which have been known for decades as those places which supported MSME, and from there they produce and export. It can be any of them. It can be Ludhiana, it can be Jalandhar, or it can be Kanpur, or it can be centers near Bihar, it can be anywhere in Bengal. So any legacy cluster, 200, we have volunteered that it can be funded, upgraded, given the modern instruments, hardware, software that is required, we will be undertaking that. Other than also providing for girls' hostel in every district, so that girls do not hesitate to take up to science education, which requires long-term, long hours to be spent in the colleges and universities. All of them, not just the girls' hostel, but the training, the internship, and the kind of programs that we're looking at, education centers, are all with AI provisioning. So AI education is not anymore kept at elite levels, it's going to be available for all our young. So if I very quickly move to mention the numbers, madam. Gross tax receipts are at 44.04 lakh crore in this BE. It's about 8% more than what was in BE of RE of 25-26. 3.26 lakh crores more than the RE. And if I were to look at the total expenditure, madam, for 26-27, it's at 53.47 lakh crores, so much more than what we receive as tax receipts. The capital expenditure is at 12.22 lakh crores, which is 3.1% of GDP, and also 11.5% higher than the RE 25-26. Of this, I'm glad to say, on the recommendation of finance ministers from the states who met me before the budget preparation, which is a normal calendar event which before every budget I meet up with the state finance ministers, on their recommendation and accepting their recommendation, capital expenditure grant that we grant, call it loan without interest for 50 years, which eventually would be equivalent to a grant, has been increased on their request to 2 lakh crores under SASCI, and that is very much for their capital expenditure. Many states have actually shown that some of the signature projects of their states have been completed over the years since 2021, when we have been giving them SASCI, 50 years interest-free capital expenditure, money which goes to the states. So with this, the effective capital expenditure, although I said capital expenditure is 12.2 lakh crores, the effective capital expenditure, which includes the grants that I give to the states as well, is 17.1 lakh crores, which is 4.4% of the GDP, which goes only to build India in the states and everywhere else, union territories and so on. So states and union territory put together for the capital expenditure, 17.1 lakh crore is being given effectively. I'm not spending too much time on the fiscal summary, madam. Fiscal deficit, as you know, for this coming year has been pegged at 4.3%. There are, of course, quite a few honourable members who said it's by restricting your expenditure that you've come to that fiscal consolidation. I'll explain it, that it is not by restricting the expenditure, but I can expand on that a bit later. The resources transferred to the states. Often we are accused of not really transferring the 41% which the Finance Commission has recommended, that Government of India should give 41% of devolvable tax to the states. It's not 41%. I will assure this House through you, madam, 41% it is that we have transferred to the states. We have not reduced any state's transferred devolvable tax which has to go. And that I will also bring in the details. total resources to be transferred to the states, including the devolution of states' share in taxes and releases that are made under the centrally sponsored scheme in 26-27, the coming year, is estimated to be at 25.44 lakh crores. इतना पैसा स्टेट्स को जाएगा इस साल, आने वाले साल, 25.44 lakh crores. This entails an increase of 2.70 lakh crores. ये पिछले इस साल जो मार्च तक है, उस साल से कंपेयर करते हुए अगर हम देखें तो 2.7 लाख करोड़ का इंक्रीज है 25-26 में, और 3.78 lakh crore more than the actuals of 24-25. So इतना स्पष्ट इंक्रीज स्टेट्स को जा रहा है. और इसके साथ साथ मैडम, क्रेडिट अवेलेबिलिटी कैसा है इंडस्ट्रीज काम करने के लिए, छोटे इंडस्ट्रीज, छोटे उद्योगों के लिए? टोटल क्रेडिट has actually expanded by 13.8% in the current financial year. As of January 15, 2026, non-food bank credit has grown by 13%, and the non-bank credit, which is NBFC, has grown by 15.4% at the same period. So credit का कोई कमी नहीं है. I want to highlight the fact, madam, the 16th Finance Commission, whose report I had tabled in this House, has very clearly said, क्योंकि बार बार ये प्रश्न आता है कि सेंटर स्टेट्स को देने वाले पैसा नहीं दे रही है, उसका विषय में फिनांस कमीशन अध्ययन करने के बाद उनका बयान है रिपोर्ट में. मैं आई एम नॉट एग्जैक्टली कोटिंग इट, आई एम पुटिंग दैट वो रिपोर्ट में क्या कहा गया. 16th Finance Commission analyzed the state's share transferred by the center to the states from 2018-19 to 22-23 and concluded that in each of these years the devolution made by the center exactly matches the recommendation of the Finance Commission. So सिर्फ हम नहीं क्लेम कर रहे हैं, फिनांस कमीशन ही विस्तार से इसको अध्ययन करने के बाद उनका रिपोर्ट में ये बताया गया कि सेंटर से जो पैसा स्टेट्स को जाना है, ये उदाहरण लेकर के 18-19 to 20-22-23 इन सालों का विषय में अध्ययन करने के बाद स्पष्टता से बोला है कि केंद्र सरकार से राज्य सरकार को जितने भी पैसा जाना है वो टिक गया है स्टेट्स को. कोई इसमें शक करने का गुंजाइश नहीं है. क्योंकि इस विषय में इतना स्पष्टता से मैं बात करना चाहती हूं, थोड़ा सबको मालूम है फिर भी मैं याद दिलाना चाहती हूं. ग्रॉस टैक्स रेवेन्यू मतलब टोटल टैक्स से जितना कलेक्ट होता है उसको ग्रॉस टैक्स रेवेन्यू कहा जाता है. वो सेसेस भी और सरचार्जेस भी उसमें शामिल होता है, वो अलग है. फिर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ये बताता है कि सीएजी के द्वारा ऑडिट करने के बाद नेट प्रोसीड्स क्या है, ये निर्णय करने वाले सीएजी है. नेट प्रोसीड मतलब ये ग्रॉस टैक्स रेवेन्यू जो अमाउंट है उससे सेस को हटा दो, सरचार्ज को हटा दो, उसके बाद जितनी भी है उसको डिविजिबल पूल कहते हैं. वो ही है नेट प्रोसीड. उससे हम 41% स्टेट्स को भेजा है कि नहीं भेजा है उसका अध्ययन होना चाहिए, ना कि ग्रॉस टैक्स रेवेन्यू के ऊपर. ग्रॉस टैक्स रेवेन्यू में सेस भी है, सरचार्ज भी है. सो जब डांटना है केंद्र सरकार को, आप सेस भी कलेक्ट कर रही हो, सरचार्ज भी कलेक्ट कर रही हो, हाँ कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं क्योंकि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में हमें प्रावधान है सेस कलेक्ट कर सकते हैं और सरचार्ज कलेक्ट कर सकते हैं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के मुताबिक. वो हटाने के बाद जो पूल रहता है उसके ऊपर आपको 41% मिलना चाहिए. वो मिल रही है कि नहीं मिल रहे आप उसके ऊपर कैलकुलेट करो, ना कि जीटीआर के ऊपर, और उसके बाद बोलोगे कि सेस भी आप कलेक्ट कर रही हो और उससे हमें कम भी दे रही हो. नो, यू कांट हैव इट बोथ वेज. So I think we should be very clear. Or ये Annex 4A or Annex 4B, sorry?
माननीय सदस्यगण, सभा की सहमति हो तो सभा की कार्रवाई माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी के भाषण की समाप्ति तक बढ़ा दी जाए। माननीय मंत्री जी, कंटिन्यू।